I genuinely believe that the Herta is one of the worst units that's in the game right now. Most bad units out there can be somewhat saved with vertical investments either in their Eidolons or through new support units like Mortenax Blade. The Herta is such a special case, wherein the way in which she deals damage is so weird and clunky, it would genuinely take a novaflare and a new dedicated erudition unit to be able to save her. As of recording this video, I've heard no such rumors from the Divination Commission, so I'd expect around 4 or more months of the Herta irrelevancy. I am an E2 Herta owner and she's currently sitting pretty as a bench warmer. In this video, we will tackle exactly what's wrong with the Herta, how I would personally buff her, and of course I will create an OC Do Not Steal self-insert kit to pair with her as a dedicated support. First flaw, stack overflow. Most hypercarries in the game just want you to stack a ton of buffs on them, and once they attack, they output an amount of damage with their high motion values. The Herta is a little different, where her motion values depend on the stacks of interpretation on the enemy. You get a 50% damage bonus if you consume the maximum amount of stacks, which is 42. This means, for the Herta to actually deal damage, you need other units to hit your enemies enough times to stack them up to 42. Now, here lies the heart of the problem. There are no characters that can consistently generate 42 stacks for the Herta in single to 3 target scenarios. Now, I'm going to do some napkin mathematics here, but assuming you have a 99 speed Herta, and the best case scenario happens where your erudition presses ultimate and acts twice through Eagle Set for a total of 15, Triby acts once and uses 4 follow-ups for a total of 10, and DHPT acts once, presses ult, and dragons once for a total of 6. You would end up with 31 stacks. And if we say that the Herta does a basic and uses her ultimate, you will still have only 41. If you choose to consume the stacks now, you will miss out on the damage bonus from the 42 limit, or you will overcap on stacks, waste a turn using basic, and lose out on potential motion value. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. To make matters more complicated, stacks transfer between units once they die. So there are times where you can consistently consume 42 over multiple turns if you manage to somehow stagger your kills. This is the best case scenario. Since you're maximizing your DPS output, if you can forgive a ridiculous amount of stacks overcapping and going to waste. But this best case scenario can only happen if there's a weak enemy and an elite next to it. There's also the problem of if you kill the creep too fast without stacking stuff up on it, it won't transfer enough stacks, which means we're back to the problem of not having enough. Herta's ultimate automatically rearranges all of the interpretation stacks on the field so that the stacks are all transferred to elite level enemies and above. This is amazing for situations where there's one elite and multiple creeps. However, in a lot of Anomaly, MOC, and Epoch Shadows, there are 2 elites. So if both of them have 21 stacks and you press ultimate, no one ends up with 42. Extremely frustrating. People say that the Herta is amazing in pure fiction and AoE content. It is true that she's good, but even then, she's actually situational because of the stack transfer mechanics. She performs best in the linked HP stages where there's one big boss that stays, and the rest of the creeps just die to her AoE. If it's just waves and waves of creeps with equal amounts of HP, she typically has to use 2 turns to clear due to insufficient stack generation and staggering of kills. And to wrap this first point up, Herta's ultimate action forwards her, and allies' attacks give her energy. For most hypercarries, you'd be ecstatic to hear about something like this. For the Herta, this can be horrible in 2 ways. It could be that the stacks aren't ready yet, or the Herta's real turn is coming up in 12 AV, so you don't want to waste the 100% action forward. Both cases lead to energy overflow or wasted AV, both of which are very crucial resources when you want to clear fast. Second flaw, chains of erudition. Eruditions generate more stacks for the Herta than any other unit path. The problem with that is that DPS units are generally selfish. There's currently no dedicated support for the Herta. I have to believe that Anaxa was an attempt to be that for her, but he genuinely is better off as a hypercarry himself rather than a support. As of now, he's okay as a support, and his sublimation stunts enemies, so there's some sustainless strategies there. But the only buff he gives is a team-wide 50 damage percent, which is a drop in the ocean when compared to the current titans of the meta. Other than that, the Herta is stuck with 4-star 1.0 units and Jade. Every other unit these days gets tailored, pre-packaged units for them like Finon Ciridra, Firefly Dahlia, or the way they deal damage is just motion value swap, so you can just slap whatever new generalist supports that are dominating the meta, and dominate regardless of gimmicks. I've mentioned in a previous video how harmonies break the game with their ridiculous amounts of amplification from rest pen, def pen, and all the other stats that they just print out while remaining SP positive. The Herta's damage being gatekept by the erudition class means that she suffers big time because she will always have a dead third slot. If the Herta didn't require an erudition to generate stacks, we would be running Tribi, RMC, Wealth, and be happy. Final flaw: nothing can save you. As it stands, there's nothing in the game that can fix the Herta's problems. Her E1 does make subsequent 42 procs easier to hit, but there will be moments where downtime can occur into elite content. Her E2 action forwards her by 35% if you use her enhanced skill, which could easily desync her with any speed tuning you want to do. And it also makes it harder to hit that 42 since she's going to be acting and therefore consuming more stacks frequently. You could vertically invest in her supports to increase her damage, but that won't fix her stack generation problem. You could invest in the eruditions that are in her team, but then they'd probably be better off being a hyper carry. If you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe. I want to hit 1,000 subs as soon as possible, and it helps me stay motivated to deliver these analyses to you. And if you've made it this far, you'll probably enjoy my other content anyway. Thanks, dude. Now, I predict that the likely thing to happen to Herta in the future is that she gets novaflared and gets a dedicated support. Or alternatively, Argenti or Jade gets novaflared and suddenly becomes Herta's Biz. But this is far into the future, so you won't see anything like this in the upcoming months. So for now, I'll show you the two main routes that the Herta novaflare can take. First up are the quality of life changes. They could remove the stack cap for enemies and it would still remain balanced if they make it so that she can only consume 42 stacks at a time. If they really wanted a cap, putting it at 99 would be fine so that they don't have to shrink the number size on the diamond indicators that she has. Having Sunday's energy overflow mechanic in her base kit would be amazing, so that you don't have to waste your energy when waiting for the best time to use your ultimate or waiting for stacks. These changes are so small, but genuinely change so much about the Herta's game plans and options, and honestly I could end the Nova Flare here and I would be satisfied. But let's keep going. Hello, future Kyte here. One thing that past me forgot to mention is the weird insistence of Hoiverse to give ultimate damage buffs to the Herta, such as in her A2 trace, which gives 99 damage percent, and her E6, which increases her ultimate damage multiplier. This is extremely weird to me since around 70% of the Herta's damage comes from her skill. A simple change to make her skill deal ultimate damage or vice versa would be appreciated. I highly doubt that they would remove the erudition tag from her and just make every unit give 5 stacks instead of 2, since that would make all of the flavor from Herta's kit be removed and it would just turn her into another hypercarry unit that enjoys frequent attacking party members. So instead, we're going to improve her synergy with other erudition team members. I could see them doing changes to her similar to what Kafka's Nova Flare did for Dot. If the main problem is that eruditions don't synergize well with Herta because of the lack of buffs, the solution is that the Herta herself gives buffs when there are erudition members on the party. As it stands, she gives an 80% crit damage boost, which is absolutely abysmal. For it to be potent, she would either have to give a wider array of buffs like attack percent, damage percent, or maybe even some rest pen, def pen, or vulnerability. I highly doubt they'd go this route though, so instead, these ideas will manifest into my character. As for her Eidolons, it's genuinely just E2 and E4 that need a change. If her E2 action forwarded all other eruditions by 35%, that would be great, but not too broken since it's path locked. The herta's multipliers aren't bad. At 42 stacks, she's outputting a juicy 536% single target motion value, and her being slow and relying on teammates to deal damage is a compelling character concept. She's held the fort in 3.x when she was shielded, but now that a year has passed, her age is starting to show with the clunkiness of her kit. I've already made an OC Please Do Not Steal for my Sparkle Silverwolf video. In that video, I talked about Silverwolf's energy problems, and it's kind of crazy that they fixed that with a Novaflare. And the OC that I made to be the hyper carry of that team was close to Archer's design with the insane SP consumption. Even though I thought it'd be a relic instead of a Novaflare, and the fact that Archer doesn't have debuff synergy, it's still impressive what my own divination powers can do without any help from rumors from the commission's higher ups. I didn't even know that Novaflares could exist back then, by the way. But without further ado, here's the complementary kit that goes with these analyses. We will start with the main gimmick, which lies in talent, stock knowledge. 2 immortal enemy dummies will be summoned on the field, and a percentage of the non-true damage dealt to them will be tallied. This is similar to the damage transferring borrowed force dummies that's present in Currency Wars' AoE bond, with some key differences. First is that the damage is merely recorded instead of transferred, so you'd be better off using your single target damage on the actual enemy instead of the dummy. The point of this is that it picks up any leftover AoE and blast and doesn't let it go to waste. The second part of the talent is a follow-up attack that launches twice whenever you attack a dummy, with uses recharging at the start of my turn. This is very similar to Kafka's follow-up attack, but the main point of this is to generate stacks for the herta. The multipliers for the follow-ups are very low. The basic attack, Building Blocks, is Blast, and the skill, Solid Foundation, is a simple 2-hit blast, then AoE. Once again, the multipliers for this are low and for a good reason. Ultimate, let's lock in together. This costs a whopping 180 energy. My action is advanced by 100%, and I enter a locked-in state that enhances my basic attack and skill, increases all allies' damage percent by an amount equal to my speed, and finally, there's a 4-turn ultimate lockout. At the end of the cooldown, the tally from my talent is cleared. This is very similar to Firefly or Silverwolf's ultimate with the lockout system. And finally, the payoff is here. My enhanced basic, Repetition Legitimizes, and enhanced skill, Ancestral Recall, both have slightly higher multipliers, and I deal 25% of the tallied damage as fire damage, distributed equally among non-dummy targets. This is similar to what Cypher does with their ultimate, but with some key differences. First is that it deals fire damage instead of true damage, so that means the damage dealt here is going to be reduced by def, res, and damage reduction. At the same time, this means that the fire damage I deal will still be affected by damage percent, crit, and other multipliers. The tally is also only cleared at the end of the 4th turn, so that means the tally dynamically changes while I'm in the locked-in state. Now, the bonus abilities I have are very important in shaping my builds so that I am built as a hyperspeed sub-DPS. The first trace, Hasty, increases my speed by 50% of my crit rate, so people don't abandon crit subs in favor of just going full speed like what people nowadays do with all of the herta sub-DPSs. Making it crit rate is also genius because it's inefficient to go over 100% crit rate, so I'd be gaining a maximum of 50 speed from this trace. If I were to make it an attack to speed conversion trace, I'd have to cap it like they did with Firefly and Sparxie. The second trace, Graduation, has an effect depending on how many erudition units there are in your party, much like a Naxos trace. If I am the sole erudition, my multipliers are increased by 100%. This greatly increases my personal damage and puts me up to modern DPS standards. If there are 2 eruditions, all allies gain respen equal to 5% of my speed. If you decide to abandon harmonies and go triple erudition, you will be rewarded, as I'll increase respen by 10% of my speed and defpen by 20% of my speed. I think this is a genius way to set it up, because if I were to be run as a hyper carry with Mortenax, Blade, and Triby, my multipliers are increased, but both the tally damage and the team-wide damage percent I give with my ultimate isn't that valuable, because Triby's damage percent is already saturated as is, and neither of them have an insane amount of personal damage anyway. And if you're running triple erudition, you're going to be losing a ton of value from not running Triby. So 20% rest pen and 40% def pen across the board is reasonable, assuming I've got 200 speed. And the final trace, Crossroad Speedster, is just QOL to get my first ultimate up faster on the first round, and gain energy when allies attack with AoE to incentivize that type of playstyle. To sum it up, I launch AoE follow-up attacks to help the herta generate stacks, my talent tallies splash AoE damage, and I convert it into my own damage. I can be both SP positive, negative, or neutral depending on what you need. And I can also be a hyper carry, sub DPS, or support all at the same time. When I was making this kit, I feared making a unit that would become an Anaxa 2.0, where he's legitimately better off as a hyper carry. But I really think that the dummies and the tally function both help the herta get stacks and incentivizes you to actually run at least 2 DPS units. I find that I really like making malleable units with a lot of optionality, very similar to what I made in the last OC video. I also thought of my build, and assuming the 2 subs across the board, plus 24 desired substat standard, I'm able to hit 100% CR and 201 speed, assuming you roll 14 crit rate and 10 speed substats. I already know how hard it is to hit good speed subs, so I intentionally made the minor speed traces barely on the cusp of that 200 speed breakpoint. Why, you may ask? So that I incentivize pulling for my light cone when he decided to sleep in the front row of class. It gives speed and increases attack when my ultimate is used. Oh yeah, now we're really thinking like Koyaverse. Technique, no interruptions. This is just a special dimension that gives me 2 charges of my talent on entry and delays the enemy's actions by 30%. Just a little bit of breathing room so that the sustainless triple erudition team might find success. For the Eidolons, Show Me Your True Self gives AoE vulnerability while locked in. The E2, the Axe Forgets, needs to be strong so it doubles the tally amount. Group Project gives AoE crit damage based on my speed. And finally, I Carve My Own Path ramps up my speed by 25%, stacking up to 4 times when I use an enhanced skill or basic. This amps me to a ridiculous 300 speed, giving 150 damage percent, 150% crit damage, 30% rest pen, and 60% def pen to all allies if you have triple erudition. So I'd say it's around equal to an E6 Harmony unit. And with that, the entire character kit is made. As usual, I have a Google Doc in the description if you want to see it in a more readable form. I might also tweak the values a little bit, so go check it out. Once again, please subscribe if you enjoyed this type of thing, and let me know what other archetypes you think needs fixing. I'm really satisfied with this design, and even though I don't think Herta's dedicated unit will look anything like this, I'm quite confident in the dummy mechanic probably being implemented, even if the mechanics are slightly different. It's low-key hilarious that I made the first character concept video on Monoquantum because I heard rumors of the only quantum DPS within 4 patches scaling with HP. Turns out they were right, and casters came to be. Now I made this Herta character concept because there's no dedicated Herta erudition in sight. Let's hope that there's a Monoquantum Archer equivalent waiting for her just at the edge of my divination powers. As always, leave a comment on your opinions on this kit, as I'd love to read your feedback. My name is Kyte, and thank you for watching. See ya, peace!